Now then, how you doing? I hope you're well. I love old, gnarly trees, and in this demonstration, which is an extract from a much larger project, I want to show you how I might render a complex woodland scene in watercolour. Well, it begins with a detailed study in pencil of some actual trees and ends, after some improvisation, with something a little more Tolkien-esque. I'm thinking Mirkwood or Fangorn Forest. I always like to begin by identifying and establishing the basic outlines of the trees in question, and try to avoid getting into any of the fine fiddly details too early on. Once I'm happy with my first draft and the general layout of the trees, I then like to apply some simple, quick shading patterns to determine where my light is coming from and how that light is likely to impact upon the scene. As my drawing progresses, the shading will tighten up and become smoother, and I'll start to create graduations of tone to make it look more interesting. Having enjoyed myself drawing out the trees in pencil, I've decided I want to develop the scene in watercolour. I say develop because although I'm going to use the same scene as a basis for the composition, I want to improvise and add further trees, turning it into a much denser woodland scenario with even greater gnarliness. Once I'm happy with my initial drawing, I'm going to proceed with a loose wet in wet wash. For this, I'm going to be throwing cadmium yellow at it initially, followed by a fair old dollop of Prussian blue. Before the wash dries, I just want to identify a smattering of highlights. The way I'm going to do that is to carefully lift them out with a scrunched up piece of tissue. To graduate it and blend it into the wash elsewhere, I'm flicking it away into the surrounding paints and easing up on the pressure as I lift it off. Well, painting the trees is a pretty straightforward process. I'm literally applying the green to the trees, starting with the trunks and gradually moving on to the smaller branches. Actually, to be more precise, I'm applying it to one side of the branch and softening it off with a damp brush on the other, blending it into the surrounding wash. In watercolour we work from light to dark, so at some point I have to start thinking about the darker tones. No surprises then, this is more or less a repeat of my earlier process. Apply the dark tone and then soften it off with a damp brush to blend it in to the surrounding wash. Despite being old and twisty, the branches still curve upwards at their ends. Absolute straight lines and 90-degree angles are best avoided at all cost, and an easy trap to fall into is that of repetition. Keep your eyes open and your wits about you, and these things can be avoided. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Most importantly, I hope it inspires you to perhaps think about developing your own fantasy woodland scene. Remember, trees are unique characters. The way to capture that character is through close observation and drawing what you see. Well, if you'd like to watch the full-length version of this video demonstration featuring the whole drawing and painting process and have access to the project notes and other resources, including hundreds of other similar projects, then you'll need to subscribe to my private online tuition service at peterwoolley.co.uk. Well, until next time, take care.